actor who really brought, realness to television, playing a great character, playing a great son on The Cosby Show.
When news broke about Malcolm-Jamal Warner's sudden death, the world was left in disbelief. But now, what started as a tragic Hollywood loss is turning into one of the most disturbing conspiracies the entertainment world has ever seen. It began with whispers, then allegations, and now a full-blown storm ignited by none other than Ice Cube himself, who has come forward with claims so bold, so chilling, they've rocked Black Hollywood to its core. The beloved actor who once brought heart and authenticity to America's living rooms as Theo Huxtable is now at the center of a shocking narrative that points fingers not only at power structures, but at the very man who helped launch his career, Bill Cosby. According to Ice Cube, this wasn't an accident, not a tragic drowning, but a strategic silencing of a man who knew too much and was finally ready to tell all. Cube's allegations aren't vague or sensationalized. They come backed with chilling anecdotes, leaked conversations, insider whispers, and even claims of video evidence. In this bombshell unraveling, Cube suggests that Warner was working on a tell-all memoir, a book that would have spilled secrets hidden for decades, not just about Cosby's now infamous double life, but about an entire network of protection, cover-ups, and manipulation within the industry. Malcolm reportedly had documents, emails, recordings, even the names of executives who helped shield Cosby's predatory behavior for years. And if that wasn't explosive enough, Malcolm's own mother has stepped forward, reportedly stating that she believes her son's death was no accident, that he was taken out because he was about to break the silence. Ice Cube recalls moments leading up to Malcolm's passing that now seem drenched in foreshadowing the paranoia. The late-night phone calls, Malcolm expressing fear that he was being watched, followed, maybe even threatened. He allegedly told Cube, "They're trying to shut me up." And those words have since taken on a haunting weight. Shortly after, Malcolm was dead, and just like that, the media moved on with barely a ripple of investigation. No public autopsy, no press conferences with family, no in-depth reports, just silence. Too much silence. Ice Cube didn't buy it, and neither do fans who have now rallied behind hashtags like Justice for Malcolm. And Cube told the truth. As Cube tells it, Cosby had far more influence than most ever realized, not just as a comedian or television mogul, but as a power player connected to private networks capable of controlling narratives, erasing evidence, and silencing dissent. He describes Cosby as a shadow king, someone who played the smiling, fatherly figure on camera, but allegedly operated with cold precision off it. According to Cube, when Malcolm began distancing himself from Cosby, refusing suspicious offers, declining appearances, and canceling meetings, things started to change. He was reportedly blacklisted, isolated, and eventually scared. Then, as rumors swirled that he was putting together a documentary and memoir to expose not only Cosby but Hollywood's racial politics, exploitative systems, and hidden gatekeepers, his inner circle began to worry for his safety. One source said that a Hollywood fixer, someone allegedly tied to both corporate elites and criminal underworlds, may have been called in to silence Malcolm permanently. These claims might sound like something out of a movie, but when you consider the eerie details surrounding his death, they begin to form a chilling picture. Friends said Malcolm grew reclusive in his final months, terrified to speak on the phone, distrusting of even his closest allies. And then there's the detail that shocked fans the most. Cosby, the man who had played his TV father for years, offered no public condolences. Not a post, not a statement, not a mention, radio silence. And as Ice Cube has pointed out, that silence says more than words ever could. In a leaked interview, Cube confessed that he believed Malcolm was handled before he could go public. He also claims that a video exists, a call between someone in Cosby's inner circle, discussing Malcolm as a problem that needed to be taken care of. Before his story went live, that tape has not surfaced, but if it does, It could blow this story wide open. Meanwhile, Cube has reportedly faced intimidation himself, strange cars outside his home, vague threats, emails warning him to drop it, but he's not backing down. Behind the scenes, he is said to be compiling evidence for a documentary project that will uncover what really happened, not a freak drowning, but a cover-up with implications far beyond one actor's death. Malcolm was reportedly working with nonprofit organizations that, according to Cube's sources, may have been involved in laundering hush money or acting as shields for reputational cleanup. One of the most damning parts of this saga is the claim that Cosby, desperate to maintain what little remains of his legacy, viewed Malcolm as a dangerous liability. After decades of scandal and accusations, one more exposed from someone as credible and beloved as Warner might have destroyed him for good. And so, according to these insiders, it was decided that Malcolm had to go. Ice Cube has not gone completely public yet with all the receipts, but his cryptic messages, his growing urgency, and the eerie way media outlets have avoided this story suggest that he's sitting on a powder keg. If even part of what he's alleging turns out to be true, it would not only devastate Cosby's legacy, but also shine a light on a much broader network of corruption in Hollywood, one that stretches across race, power, and money. This isn't just about one man's tragic death. It's about an entire system designed to protect predators and destroy truth-tellers. The media may have chosen silence, but Ice Cube, with decades of credibility and a fearless voice, has made it clear he won't be silenced. The deeper you go into Malcolm's last days, the more patterns emerge, and the more the public begins to question everything they've been told. This isn't just conspiracy anymore. For many, it's becoming a painful realization that America's TV dad may have been guarding a very different kind of legacy, one built not on family values, but on fear and manipulation. And now that Ice Cube has blown the lid off, there may be no going back. As Ice Cube's voice grows louder in the call for truth, more people from Malcolm-Jamal Warner's past are beginning to speak up, and what they are revealing is disturbing, heartbreaking, and deeply eye-opening. Malcolm's mother, Pamela Warner, has remained largely silent since her son's passing, but according to sources close to the family, she is now convinced that her son's death was no tragic accident. In private conversations, she has allegedly described how Malcolm became increasingly anxious in the months before he passed, expressing concerns that someone was following him and that his devices were being monitored. Friends recall that he had even begun avoiding his usual routines, changing gyms, switching cars, and canceling public appearances. The paranoia didn't come from nowhere. It was, many believe, rooted in something very real. And that something may have been his intention to publish a memoir that would have shattered the carefully constructed narratives surrounding some of the most powerful men in entertainment. It wasn't just Cosby that Malcolm was preparing to expose, insiders claim. The book, which had allegedly reached more than 300 pages in its latest draft, included revelations about systemic exploitation in the industry, racial gatekeeping, secret settlements, and how promising young black artists were often manipulated, then discarded once they stopped playing. Along, Warner had reportedly compiled years' worth of journal entries, signed NDA he had broken, and even gathered testimonies from others who were too scared to go public. The project was titled Hiding in Plain View, a reference to how many of these injustices existed right in front of us, but were ignored or disguised as something else. Malcolm's wife, whose identity had been carefully guarded during his life, was also said to be aware of the dangers involved. She reportedly begged him not to release the memoir without first taking legal precautions, fearing that once he made himself a target, there would be no turning back. According to one report, Malcolm had told her, "If something happens to me, they'll say it was an accident. Don't believe it." That quote now sends chills down the spines of those who knew him. And as the world continues to mourn, more inconsistencies surrounding his death are coming to light. While the official report stated that Warner drowned in Costa Rica after being caught in a riptide, Several witnesses claim they saw Malcolm arguing with a man on the beach just hours before he entered the water. No official record has confirmed this confrontation, and no suspect has been identified. But what's even more disturbing is that Malcolm's body was cremated within 24 hours of being found reportedly without the consent of his mother or his wife. This shocking development has led many to speculate that key evidence may have been destroyed. Even more puzzling is the fact that the memoir hiding in plain view has not been found among his belongings. His laptop was allegedly missing when his personal effects were returned to his family. Emails sent to his publisher have gone unanswered. Backup drives he was known to keep in a safe deposit box were suddenly inaccessible. It's as if the manuscript never existed. And yet, those closest to him insist it was real. They had seen it, read it, discussed it. One anonymous source even claimed that the book opened with a chilling line: "If you're reading this, then I didn't make it to the end." As the mystery deepens, Ice Cube has doubled down on his mission to uncover the truth. In a recent podcast episode, he revealed that Malcolm had reached out to him for help in distributing a documentary version of his story, hoping to bypass traditional media which he no longer trusted. Cube said Malcolm told him, "They'll never let it air on cable. We have to do this ourselves." The plan was to release it through independent channels, YouTube, and underground screenings, a grassroots movement designed to spark a conversation that the networks had long suppressed. The footage, if it still exists, is now considered the holy grail of this investigation. Cube has vowed to find it, even hiring a private cybersecurity firm to search for any digital traces left behind. Meanwhile, several other celebrities have begun to speak up. Jaleel White, best known for his role as Steve Urkel on Family Matters, posted a cryptic message on social media shortly after Warner's death, saying, "Not everything you're told is the whole truth. Sometimes it's just the cleanest version of the story." The post was deleted within minutes, but not before screenshots went viral. Other stars, including Debbie Allen and Tempest Bledsoe, have also hinted at behind the scenes pressures to remain silent, though none have made direct accusations. The reluctance to speak publicly is, according to industry insiders, due to fear of lawsuits, lost contracts, and blacklisting. And yet, behind closed doors, more and more people are beginning to admit that they too believe Malcolm's death was not an accident. One particularly damning piece of information came from an unnamed executive who once worked with Warner on a Netflix project. He claimed that Warner had confided in him, saying, "There are powerful men who will do anything to stay in control. If I go down, at least I'm telling the truth." That quote has since been picked up by several blogs and independent journalists, fueling even more speculation. The truth at this point remains buried under layers of secrecy, fear, and silence. But the people closest to Malcolm, his mother, his wife, his friends, and now Ice Cube, are refusing to let his voice be erased. They're piecing together his final days, following the breadcrumbs he left behind, and preparing to shine a light on the darkness that may have taken him. For now, the official story remains unchanged. But if even half of what's been alleged is true, then the world has not only lost a great actor, it has lost a truth teller, a man who risked everything to speak up. And those who silenced him may have underestimated just how loud his legacy will echo. As Section 2 draws to a close, one thing is clear: this story is far from over. As the truth begins to unravel and questions mount around Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death, the story has evolved into more than just a personal tragedy. It is now being seen as a symbolic turning point in Hollywood, especially Black Hollywood, where the cost of truth-telling has always been unbearably high. Those closest to Malcolm believe he had begun crafting not just a memoir but a movement, something designed to empower young Black creatives while confronting the historical exploitation that many have endured in silence. And now that silence is what speaks the loudest. As Ice Cube continues to press for answers and a growing community demands justice, one detail that has reignited the conversation is the sudden reappearance of a deleted podcast episode The final one Malcolm recorded just 48 hours before his passing. The episode, titled When They Won't Let You Speak, was initially removed from platforms without explanation, but has since been leaked by anonymous sources. In it, Malcolm speaks slowly, his voice laced with fatigue and reflection, as if aware that these might be his final words. He speaks about betrayal, trust, and being tired of being polite, tired of waiting, tired of pretending everything is okay. He says, "There comes a point where staying quiet becomes more dangerous than speaking out. I'm there now." That chilling admission has fueled even more suspicion. The podcast episode, though only 27 minutes long, contains references to unseen forces, unnamed figures who pull the strings in the background, and a system built to destroy those who resist its rules. You think it's about talent, and Malcolm says, but it's about compliance. You're either a part of the illusion or you're out. These words, now repeated across social media and independent news outlets, have struck a nerve. For years, fans saw Malcolm as the thoughtful, grounded artist who stayed above the fray, who never chased clout or headlines, who never sold out, and now they understand why. He wasn't just protecting his image, he was protecting himself. In those final recordings, he also speaks of his daughter, saying he wanted to leave behind something she could be proud of, not fame or money, but the truth. "My story won't be easy to hear," he says, "but it's mine, and I won't let them rewrite it." That defiant tone has become a rallying cry. Across the industry, a quiet resistance is building. Young actors, writers, and creatives are now circulating Warner's quotes, reposting them with captions like "We hear you," and "Your voice lives on." Independent filmmakers have announced projects inspired by Warner's life and legacy, aiming to finish what he started. But amidst the growing movement lies a deep sense of unease, because as more voices join in, the pressure to suppress the narrative also intensifies. Just weeks after Cube's initial claims, several independent bloggers who covered the story reported being threatened or having their social media accounts flagged and restricted. One even said they were visited by men claiming to be from a media licensing firm, a visit that quickly turned into intimidation. It is becoming increasingly clear that there are those who do not want this story told, and yet it refuses to go away. New evidence has emerged suggesting that Warner's memoir may not be lost after all. A tech associate who once worked with Warner has claimed that encrypted backups of the manuscript exist and may be retrievable from cloud storage, though doing so could take time and legal maneuvering. Additionally, a former assistant says Warner left behind a handwritten journal stashed in a locked box at his recording studio, which may contain outlines of chapters, key dates, and names. That box, however, has reportedly been sealed as part of an ongoing private investigation. What happens next depends on how much of this material sees the light of day. Meanwhile, as fans search for meaning, they have begun re-evaluating Warner's body of work, noting how many of his projects quietly hinted at deeper truths. From the poetry in Hiding in Plain View to spoken word performances that dealt with systemic racism, mental health, and survival, Warner had long been trying to open people's eyes, but it wasn't until his death that many began to listen. Critics have also begun questioning why major media outlets have given so little attention to the growing controversy. Aside from a few polite obituaries, most networks have steered clear of covering Cube's accusations or exploring the strange circumstances around Warner's death. Some suspect this is because of the very same system Warner tried to expose, a system that thrives on silence, control, and carefully curated images. Others point to Warner's clean image, noting that he was never involved in scandal or gossip, which made him less profitable. In the tabloid-driven news cycle, but those who knew him say that was exactly the point. Malcolm didn't play the fame game, he played the long game, and now, with his passing, his legacy is speaking louder than ever. Industry veterans have begun meeting behind the scenes, discussing the possibility of launching an independent investigation into Warner's death, separate from law enforcement or official channels. They argue that only an external review, backed by private investigators and legal experts, can truly uncover the truth. Ice Cube has reportedly pledged funding for such a project, as have a few anonymous donors from within the entertainment industry. As these efforts gain traction, Warner's mother has made a rare public appearance, stating through a family spokesperson that Malcolm lived with purpose and left with unfinished business. "We will not let that business be buried." Her words have resonated across generations of fans, especially those who grew up with Warner as Theo Huxtable and now see him in a new light, not just as an actor, but as a warrior, a truth teller, and a man who refused to stay silent. And so the fight continues. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's story, once seen as a completed chapter in television history, is now being rewritten by the very people he inspired. His final podcast, his lost memoir, The Whispers of Secrets Too Dangerous to Name All of It, has become a puzzle that thousands are determined to solve. Whether the truth comes out tomorrow or 10 years from now, one thing remains certain: Warner's voice, though silenced in life, has become louder in death. He spoke of survival not just as a personal mission, but as a form of excellence. And now, in this final chapter of his life, he may have sparked the very revolution he always believed in. If they thought erasing him would be the end, they miscalculated, because the story of Malcolm-Jamal Warner is not over, it's just beginning.